The anime begins with a scene of a teenage boy named Koutarou Satomi who is carrying his moving goods into a room with cheap rent. He is also assisted by his best friend, Kenji Matsudoira. It was also seen that the owner of the place named Shizuka Kasagi was greeting Koutarou. After Koutarou entered high school, he lived independently, so he chose to live in a room with low rent. The scene then switched to night, when Koutarou was sleeping. Suddenly, a large enough earthquake made Koutarou's room lights sway. However, he was not bothered by the shaking of the earthquake. He stayed asleep as if nothing had happened. The next day, Koutarou and Kenji worked part-time to increase their pocket money. In between work, Kenji asked if Koutarou was okay after he moved into his new room because, according to the information, a guard was at the place where he lived. Koutarou said he was. Soon after, their boss came and asked him to change work locations. Koutarou walked towards the work location his boss asked him to do. While looking for the location, he suddenly fell into a hole. Inside the hole, he saw a girl standing surrounded by colorful crystals. Looks like the girl closed her eyes. Upon his arrival, she opened her eyes as if she had been waiting for him for a long time to meet her. The scene changes to a hospital. Koutarou was lying on a patient bed with a wound on his head. Kenji was seen beside his bed. Fortunately, Koutarou had regained consciousness. In the morning, Koutarou goes to school with Kenji and Kasagi while telling the story of what happened to him. After school hours, Koutarou looks very excited to join an extracurricular club at his school. It turned out that the club he joined was a knitting club, even though he had talent in baseball. Arriving at the club room, Koutarou saw a beautiful teacher named Sakuraba. Previously, they had met at the hospital, and then he said he was interested in joining the knitting club. He convinced Sakuraba that he really wanted to join the club. Even when he couldn't knit, he said he would try to learn it. Finally, Koutarou officially joined the knitting club and was able to start coming the next day. When Koutarou arrived at his house, there was a commotion inside his room. After he entered, it turned out that a ghost girl was guarding the room named Sanae. Koutarou, who didn't believe her, then threw her out. Sanae felt annoyed, and she started to attack him. Koutarou, who couldn't fight, could only fend off Sanae's attack using his talisman. Not long after, a witch named Yurika appeared in his room. She told him that great energy was approaching that place. Seeing Yurika, Koutarou and Sanae couldn't believe she was a witch. After that, Yurika was kicked from his room. Shortly after, she cries and begs him to come in. After Yurika entered, suddenly appeared a girl named Kiriha from under the floor. She went there intending to buy Koutarou's room at a high price. However, he had no interest in selling the room. After that, she took out some gold bars. Seeing the gold, Koutarou and Sanae discussed it. Shortly after, Kiriha tried to tease him so she could get the room. Suddenly, a girl from another dimension appears. Her name is Theiamillis. Annoyed by the appearance of many people in his room, Koutarou grabbed her. Out of anger, she tried to shoot him. Fortunately, Kiriha, with her strength, could withstand the attack. As Kiriha tried to block the attack, Sanae tried to lift Theia's skirt to block her view. Increasingly annoyed, Theia took out a large weapon from the sky. However, Ruth, her servant, reminds her to stop it because she has violated the Galaxy War Agreement. Ruth also reminded Theia that her job was to find as many people as they could to obey her. A while later, Kanagi, the owner of the rental place, came to Koutarou's room and scolded everyone who was fighting over the room. After that, Kanagi tried to negotiate and give a letter of agreement to get the room in addition to fighting. They all agreed with it except for Koutarou. As the rightful owner of the room, Koutarou did not accept that the room he had rented was given to someone else. They all talked about the intent and purpose they wanted to have in that room. The only person with no purpose is Yurika, and everyone still doesn't believe she is a witch. Finally, Koutarou had another way to determine the winner who would rent the room. He came up with an idea for a card game. The rule of the game is that they have to play cards 5 times a day with a point deduction system. Every time they lose, the points will be reduced, and they are willing to go from there. Knowing that, Yurika was sure that the others couldn't play cards. Sadly, Koutarou was the one who lost 5 times in a row. Then, the first day of the game is over. The next morning, Koutarou, who was about to leave for school, asked Sanae to guard his room. He said that he only trusted her. In the next scene, Koutarou learns to knit with Sakuraba at school. The next few days, it was seen that Koutarou didn't come to the knitting club because Sakuraba was busy and couldn't come to the club. Even though school time had passed, Koutarou was still sitting in his class. He was lazy to return to his rented room because his condition was not conducive. Kiriha's subordinates, who heard that, immediately reported it to Kiriha. To attract Koutarou's attention, Kiriha cooked him dinner, and it made him happy about that. In the next scene, Koutarou was having dinner with Kiriha, Theia, and Ruth. There was also Sanae, who couldn't enjoy food unless she possessed someone. Koutarou agreed that Sanae possessed him so that she could enjoy dinner. Yurika felt she was not invited for dinner and could only peek behind the cupboard. Out of pity, Koutarou finally invited her to join. After dinner, they all went back to playing cards. While playing, Theia expressed her suspicions about Kiriha's attitude of always cooking food for Koutarou. The next morning, Koutarou was surprised to see Yurika, Kiriha, Theia, and her maid joining his class. He was annoyed that there was now nowhere to escape from all those girls. Moreover, many students liked them except Yurika. At the beginning of the class, she seemed to have been punished. Then, he was determined to be more strict with the girls. While Theia and her maids were walking to the school cafeteria for lunch, a cheerleading club consisting of male students was practicing and disturbed by their presence. Seeing that, she challenged them instead. Fortunately, several students came and told Theia that they were a group of bad students. Hearing this, she had a brilliant idea. Meanwhile, the scene shows Yurika receiving a letter from Koutarou to meet behind the club building. She must have been overjoyed to think Koutarou was starting to acknowledge her as a witch. When she was about to leave, she suddenly stumbled. At the same time, she met with Sakuraba and asked about the location of the building she was going to visit. When Yurika reached the back of the building, she didn't find Koutarou. Instead, she met a member of the cosplay club. Then, Koutarou apparently recommended she join the club. After that, Koutarou, who was peeking at her from afar, was pleased. The next day, when he came home from school, Koutarou walked with Sanae. He felt happy that day. On the other hand, Kiriha saw an announcement of a marathon competition at her school. At night, everyone plays card games. Yurika, who looked exhausted, became stronger, so she won the game 3 times in a row. After that, Kiriha, who saw Theia and Koutarou getting bored with the card game to determine the winner, handed over a flyer about the marathon race held by the school. This competition will certainly be fair because the judges come from schools. Koutarou and Theia were also very excited about it. The next day, Koutarou asked Sakuraba to be a team in the marathon race because the race required 2 people in one team. At first, she refused because she was physically weak and would not be able to finish the race. However, after persuading Koutarou, she finally agreed to join his team. Meanwhile, Yurika, who has joined the cosplay club, is being asked to cosplay a character even when she only wanted to join the marathon race. On the other hand, Kiriha entered the running club. Theia then used the cheerleader club to make them submit to her. It turned out that someone was spying on her through Kiriha's doll. Since she wasn't sure about the doll, Theia asked her maid to destroy it. Because of that, there was a battle between Theia's robot and Kiriha's doll in the sky. In the afternoon, Koutarou was warming up in the classroom before the marathon started. Even Sanae, who was a ghost, expressed that she would support him. In another scene, Koutarou is seen helping Sakuraba warm up. Theia, who saw that, became annoyed that he was more submissive to Sakuraba, whereas Kiriha felt that it was very natural. After that, the marathon race began. Each club sends its best representative. After the race, problems began, such as many participants suddenly falling. Most likely, this was due to Kiriha wanting to get rid of a lot of participants. Koutarou, whose path was blocked by the fallen participants, immediately jumped over them. Meanwhile, Theia was carried by the cheerleader club chairman, who had a big athletic body. However, Yurika, who took part in the competition, was alone. There was no one to help her. Apparently, in the marathon, the participants also had to go through various challenges. The first challenge is a math problem. Koutarou, running with Sakuraba, asked his partner to run ahead of him while he worked on the math problem. In the middle of Koutarou's journey to the second challenge, he met Theia in the second challenge. In the second challenge post about eating cake, he immediately finished the cake and left Sakuraba. In the next challenge, Koutarou looks having a hard time until it is preceded by Kenji, while Yurika, who was alone, looked exhausted and almost gave up. But, after Sakuraba came and cheered her on, Yurika decided to finish the race. In the 8th challenge, the participants had to choose their obstacle course. It seems Theia chose the easy path and was helped by her group leader. Troubles began to arise when several men were looking for Koutarou. However, suddenly, their target instead became Kenji. Not only that, but Theia also set many traps in the 8th challenge area, which caused many explosions to occur there. Several other participants who felt her path was unimpeded began to attack her. The situation looks even more chaotic. Elsewhere, Yurika and Sakuraba were still running. They think there is a possibility that there are participants who have reached the finish line. Suddenly, Sakuraba fainted. Yurika then tried to help Sakuraba with her magic. Unfortunately, it failed. Fortunately, with a mysterious power, Sakuraba could wake up again. Meanwhile, Koutarou looks like he's about to reach the final challenge. Unfortunately, he was exhausted and passed out. Now, Theiss and Kiriha arrived at the final challenge. In that challenge, Theia and Kiriha fought. Afterward, Sakuraba, who had realized this, was even more excited to complete the final challenge with Yurika. In that challenge, Sakuraba had to bring her team members. As for Yurika, she had to bring a friend. Of course, it made her confused about who she should invite. In the end, Sakuraba agrees to become her friend, and instead, she asks Yurika for help to bring Koutarou. Unexpectedly, Yurika and Sakuraba also won the race. At the end of the race scene, Kasagi was furiously looking for Thea, who had laid mines during the marathon, and Koutarou, who had bullied the sumo club. The scene switches when Ruth wins a vacation to the hot springs after playing a prize game. She asks Thea for permission to go on vacation together because she has 6 vacation tickets. Since Sanae is a ghost, she can join the holiday without a ticket. Then, before the day of departure, the girls bought a swimsuit. The scene continues on a spaceship belonging to Thea. Koutarou wondered why Thea wanted the room he had rented so badly. Not long after, Ruth opened a portal to the inn. With the portal, they can all save money and travel time. When they arrived at the inn, they were all shocked because the condition of the inn was uninhabitable and haunted. The scene switches to the beach. Koutarou, preparing to relax on the beach, met the cosplay club, who would be holding a meeting there. They told Koutarou that Sakuraba would be visiting the beach. After arriving at the beach, Koutarou saw Sakuraba there. The girls who had put on their swimsuits and wanted to show them off looked envious because he was more interested in Sakuraba. Finally, Koutarou was punished by being buried in the sand while the other girls played ball on the beach. It turned out that his punishment actually made Sakuraba closer to him. Because of that, the upset girls tried to find other punishments. Elsewhere, the 2 boys who sold the prize games earlier were lurking. When everyone was playing a watermelon game, they suddenly tried to catch Thea. Finally, both of them were buried in the sand. In the evening, they went to the hot springs. Koutarou was happy because he saw Sakuraba and his friends having fun and enjoying the holiday. Meanwhile, the girls shared their reasons for wanting to get the room that Koutarou had rented. Yurika said that the room would be given to the person who had helped her. While they were sleeping, suddenly, Koutarou touched Ruth because he dreamed of climbing a tree to catch beetles. After that, he apologized. However, he was kicked out of the room and headed for the beach. On the beach, Koutarou saw Kiriha sitting alone and longing for someone who had given him a present in his hand. Sanae, who tried to pick up Koutarou and saw him with Kiriha, intended to startle them. Unfortunately, she got electrocuted because Koutarou was holding an exorcism talisman. Because of that, she felt offended and thought she couldn't accept it. The next day, while the others were having breakfast, Sanae was still visibly upset with Koutarou because of what had happened the night before. She decided to leave him. Elsewhere, the criminals lurking earlier had prepared a plan for them. The scene switches when Sanae sits on a cliff near the beach. After a while, she decided to return to see Koutarou. However, suddenly a criminal catches her. Koutarou, worried about Sanae, was seen looking for her on the beach and met Sakuraba. He then told what was happening to Sakuraba. Meanwhile, Yurika, who was also looking for Sanae, saw that her friend had been captured by criminals who turned out to be ghost hunters. The criminals intended to sell her. In the scene, a woman, dark crimson, appears with the ghost hunters. Yurika, who was peeking at Sanae from behind the bushes, wanted to help her. Unfortunately, the cosplay club came and took Yurika away, so she couldn't help Sanae. On the beach, Koutarou was still continuing his story to Sakuraba. While Sanae is now locked in the car, Dark Crimson, who kidnapped her, began inciting that humans could never appreciate a ghost like Sanae. Back to Koutarou, he revealed that his words to Sanae were just a joke. However, Sakuraba, who heard all of his stories, said that if she was Sanae, she would also be offended by his words. Hearing that, Koutarou immediately went to look for Sanae again. On the way, he meets Yurika, who was captured by the cosplay club. Yurika told him that Sanae was kidnapped by the criminals who had tried to kidnap Thea the previous day. At the inn, Koutarou told all his comrades about Sanae's kidnapping. Using the pointing device Kasagi brought, they started looking for her whereabouts. Unfortunately, the device suddenly exploded. Eventually, the search was aided by Kiriha's doll, and they found her whereabouts. They rushed to save their friend. Where Sanae was, it looked like she was daydreaming and hoping Koutarou would save her. However, Dark Crimson spoke again if no one would save her. Not long after, Koutarou and his companions arrived at their destination and attacked the place. On the other hand, Yurika escaped from the cosplay club and went to help Sanae. When Koutarou and his friends managed to get into the room where Sanae was being held, they immediately attacked Dark Crimson. Seeing the arrival of her friends, Sanae was moved because it turned out that they were still considered friends. After that, annoyed, Dark Crimson finally gathered all the spirits and formed a giant spirit. Afterward, she was forced to enter into the spirit of the giant. Koutarou didn't lose his mind. He threw down his exorcist and family protective amulets. Sanae wouldn't be hurt by the attack because his family's protective talisman would protect her. After the giant spirit is destroyed, Sanae is safe. Now she, holding the family's protective talisman, was happy because it turned out that Koutarou had considered her as family. Meanwhile, Kiriha punishes the 2 boys who kidnapped Sanae while they tried to escape. The scene continued the next day. Koutarou was in the knitting club room and thanked Sakuraba for giving him advice on the beach. Meanwhile, Thea was seen reading a book from her mother entitled The Story of the Silver Princess and the Blue Knight. At night in Koutarou's room, he asks his friends to help him write a script for the drama club because he doesn't want Kenji to belittle him. Koutarou also had an offer for all his friends. Whoever helps him will get 5 points from him. As for the selected script, he will get 5 points from each of his friends. Of course, this offer was welcomed by Yurika, who had the lowest points. Her enthusiasm excited the others to write the script even though the deadline was only 1 month. After that, it looks like everyone is busy writing their own scripts. Meanwhile, Thea looked relaxed and had also prepared a story for the script. At the same time, it seems that Ruth entered the portal to check something. After Ruth left, Yurika told Koutarou that she had brought an animal from the cosplay club. She said she was forced to bring the animal because it was a request from the vice chairman of the cosplay club. Turns out, the animals Yurika brought were rhinoceros beetles. Seeing the animal, everyone was shocked because they knew that Ruth would be angry if the animal was there. Suddenly, Ruth returned from the portal and made everyone panic, trying to hide the animal Yurika had brought. Fortunately, they managed to hide it well. In the middle of the night, while Koutarou was still trying to write the script with Sanae, Yurika came out of her closet and cried. She said she couldn't sleep because the beetle kept moving. Koutarou then asked her to keep the beetle in the cupboard so she could sleep on the other side of the room. Meanwhile, Thea was writing the script on her spaceship. Actually, she could have just printed the script without having to write it, but she wants to play fairly. After that, a problem arose in the space and time distortion, which made Thea more vigilant. 1 month later, Thea's script about the Blue Knight Silver Princess was chosen. Koutarou felt it was unfair since he had spent his time writing the script until midnight. The scene changed when Thea made a selection to find a story actor. None of the students who came had the qualifications to play the Silver Princess, so Koutarou suggested choosing Sakuraba. Then, everyone agreed with his idea. Sakuraba, who had been chosen as the Silver Princess, was seen training with Koutarou. However, because she couldn't play her role well, Koutarou helped her by trying to play the Blue Knight. With Koutarou's help, Sakuraba could finally play the Silver Princess so well that the drama club chairman who saw her was impressed. Another scene shows Thea checking security on her spaceship. In the morning, Thea was carrying so many things. Koutarou, who saw that, helped her by slightly playing the Blue Knight character. Thea saw Koutarou as the true Blue Knight. The next scene shows that all the actors are doing a show practice session. Sakuraba, who became the Silver Princess, could not train optimally like before. Therefore, Koutarou tries to replace Kenji, who plays the Blue Knight temporarily, to help Sakuraba. Thea, who saw Koutarou and Sakuraba, act as if she saw the real Silver Princess and Blue Knight. Shortly afterward, Thea finally acknowledged Sakuraba's abilities. When the role of the Blue Knight was about to be changed, Kiriha suggested that the Blue Knight should be played by Koutarou because it would affect Sakuraba, who seemed to live the role more when she was with him. Hearing that, Kenji doesn't have a problem as long as the drama runs smoothly. They also agreed to help Koutarou to learn more about the Blue Knight character. On the other hand, a girl named Clan looks disapproving of Thea using the story for a show on Earth. Clan plans to thwart the show. Later, Thea trained Koutarou to become a Blue Knight. In the middle of practice, they decided to take a break. She recounted her problem regarding the distortion of space and time she was dealing with. She suspected that her enemy, Clan, was secretly trying to attack her. After Thea finished speaking, Koutarou continued his training. Elsewhere, Yurika and Sanae seemed to be in Koutarou's room feeding the beetles. Unbeknownst to them, Ruth was behind them. Seeing her, they were shocked. Luckily, Ruth didn't know that the animal was a rhinoceros beetle, making them relieved. The next day, Koutarou rehearses, and the rehearsal is led by the drama club chairman. Before the training started, he saw a foreign tusk he didn't know. After that, the training started, and Thea, who was watching the training, felt that Koutarou was the real Blue Knight. But what saddened him was that the one the Blue Knight was protecting wasn't him. Kiriha, watching the practice, felt that Koutarou's lines reminded her of someone she missed so much. Suddenly, a lamp above Thea fell, and Koutarou immediately helped her. She imagined that Koutarou was indeed a Blue Knight she knew. Seeing this, Kiriha felt that someone had planned it. In Koutarou's room, Kiriha said that the person who might want to harm Thea was her enemy, secretly trying to attack her. Ruth added that Thea and Clan did have a bad relationship. After the events of that day, Koutarou had always looked after Thea. In the next scene, Koutarou and his friends did the last drama rehearsal before the stage. When he had finished and was about to go home, Thea stopped him and asked him to retrain. Sakuraba, who saw them training together, felt jealous. Elsewhere, Yurika returned to Koutarou's room to feed the rhinoceros beetle. It looks like Ruth is also cooking there. At the same time, a television was playing a Kamen Rider commercial. Seeing the advertisement, Ruth realized that the animal that Yurika kept was a rhinoceros beetle. Ruth was chasing her, who immediately took her pet and ran out. Yurika ran until she reached the school and was looking for a hiding place. Unfortunately, Ruth was able to find it. Just before she attacked Yurika, Ruth saw Theia dancing on the school stage. Ruth finally came to her senses and returned to Koutarou's room. Not long after that, Clan came and tried to shoot Theia. Koutarou felt that there was something odd about it because, according to his information, Clan would only attack Theia secretly. This was different from what Clan was doing right now. Koutarou's suspicions were also proven when Theia was about to take out her weapons. Suddenly, all of a sudden, they exploded. He then protected Theia. Even though he only played the Blue Knight, Koutarou would chase and avenge Clan like the real Blue Knight. Just as he was about to attack Clan, his body was suddenly surrounded by light. Even though Koutarou wasn't a Blue Knight, neither was his sword, but the attack defeated Clan. Sanae then helped him by lifting Clan's skirt to distract him. Just as Clan was about to strike again, Kiriha's puppet had already prepared to pick up the tools she had installed to blow up her opponent. Unbeknownst to her, the explosive device she had installed was beside her and exploded. To avoid the explosion, Clan tried to escape and went to the cupboard where Yurika had been hiding from Ruth earlier. After Clan fled, Koutarou noticed that the sword he used to attack Clan was broken. Fortunately, Theia wasn't angry about it. On the other hand, Clan, who was trying to make her final attack, was suddenly hit by Yurika and she fell. Because of that, Clan finally returned to its origin. The next scene shows that the Silver Princess and Blue Knight show went smoothly, and at night, while Koutarou is sleeping, Theia and Ruth come to the room and give the title of knight to him. Elsewhere, an evil sorceress named Maki plans to take revenge on Yurika. The next morning, Yurika's friends still don't believe she is a witch at school. Not long after, Maki was introduced as a new student in the class. She was a witch who would take revenge against Yurika. Yurika, who knows Maki, then introduces her to her classmates. She said that Maki was her enemy who would take Koutarou's room. In the next scene, during school break, Koutarou and Sanae don't believe her words. After Koutarou finished his lunch, he went back to class first, while Yurika was still on the park bench. After that, Maki appears and intends to join the cosplay club. She thought that her magic power would be recognized by joining the club. The scene switches to a cafe where Sakuraba tells Yurika that she wants to be closer to Koutarou. Yurika, who understood that Sakuraba was interested in him, gave an idea for them to go on a date. On the way home from the cafe, Yurika remembered that she had to prepare to fight to protect Koutarou's room because Maki had come. After arriving at the room, Yurika unexpectedly saw Koutarou and the others having a welcoming party for Maki. Yurika again told her friends that Maki was an evil witch. However, they still didn't believe her. Shortly after, Koutarou wanted to ask Yurika about the reason for hating Maki, but suddenly, Kenji came with the snack he had bought. After the snacks were placed on the table, they turned out to be several packets of snacks with Kamen Rider pictures. Ruth, who saw it, was angry and destroyed the picture. At the same time, Yurika still didn't accept that Maki was in Koutarou's room. Elsewhere, it shows Sakuraba, who is contemplating her date plan with Koutarou. Then, she met Yurika sitting alone on a park bench. She approached Yurika. Soon after, Yurika told her that she was sad because her friends didn't believe she was a witch. Sakuraba said that she had to prove it with an action. Hearing what Sakuraba said, Yurika remembered that Maki's arrival was her chance to prove to all her friends that she was a witch. Finally, she decided to return to Koutarou's room. In the morning, Yurika refused to go to school with Koutarou. Koutarou, who had to leave for school immediately, finally left her and asked Kiriha's doll to monitor her. When Koutarou had left, Yurika prepared to fight to defend Koutarou's room with her strength. Elsewhere, Maki meets Sakuraba. Meanwhile, when they were gathering at school, they suddenly received news that Yurika had run away from Koutarou's room wearing cosplay clothes. Then, Kiriha ordered her doll to look for Yurika's whereabouts. Koutarou also planned to go after her alone. The scene switches to a place where Yurika and Maki fight. To protect the area, they made a seal. Not long after, they started attacking each other. At the same time, Koutarou had reached the place and entered the seal. However, Sanae had a hard time getting in, so she was helped by Koutarou. In that battle, Yurika had difficulty fighting Maki because Maki mastered memory and feeling control magic. Koutarou, who was already there, pretended he just wanted to see the cosplay so he could get closer. When Maki was about to attack Yurika again, Koutarou suddenly helped her. Maki, who saw Koutarou, felt strange with the strength inherent in his body. After that, Maki took out Sakuraba, who was now under her control. Suddenly, she tried to attack Yurika. Luckily, Yurika was able to withstand the attack. Koutarou began to acknowledge her power as a witch. Then, Maki was seen releasing a large fireball. Seeing that, Koutarou tried to prevent the attack. But the attack turned out to be directed at Sakuraba, beside him. Yurika, who didn't want to see Sakuraba hurt, used her power to teleport to protect Sakuraba. Unfortunately, Yurika was hit by a fireball from Maki and fell unconscious. Koutarou, who saw Yurika helplessly, got angry and wanted to avenge Maki's actions. Suddenly, Sakuraba turned into a girl carrying a colorful crystal and gave a sword to Koutarou. After that, the fight between Koutarou and Maki ensued. With Koutarou's immense strength, Maki could not match him and chose to leave. Then, as soon as Sakuraba woke up, Koutarou calmed her down. Elsewhere, the girls were waiting to hear from Koutarou in a classroom. Even Thea, who was writing the script, was disturbed because she was waiting to hear from Koutarou. Not long after, Sanae and Yurika appeared in the class. The scene changes when Yurika decides to go after Maki with Koutarou and Sakuraba. Soon after, Koutarou asked for an explanation regarding Yurika's magic power. After that, she said that, at first, she wasn't a witch. She is just an ordinary human who befriends a witch named Nana. Nana then shares magic with her. Until one day, Yurika was kidnapped. Nana tries to help Yurika until she is seriously injured. Before Nana died, she gave her magic power to Yurika, but she had to avenge her best friend. In Koutarou's room, Maki absorbed the power that was there. But she couldn't absorb the power in his room to its full potential. The next scene shows Koutarou holding the weak Yurika and taking her to his room. After arriving at the destination, Koutarou saw Maki, who had finished absorbing the power in that place. They both attack each other. With her new power, she was able to match his strength. When Maki felt she was starting to control the power from his place, she attacked Koutarou with a sword. Fortunately, Yurika blocked it. Due to the sheer strength of the sword, Yurika's magic could not block the attack. Fortunately, Koutarou and Yurika were still holding out after the big attack. Just as Maki was about to make her second big attack, Kiriha and Thea came to help. Their attacks could still be blocked by Maki. However, when Kasagi gets angry, she ends up hitting Maki. Maki also knows that everyone who is there has magic power. Then, she broke part of her wand, and she disappeared. A strange thing happened after she broke that part of her wand because it made Koutarou's memory disappear. Elsewhere, Maki meets with her partner and discusses what had happened to her. On the next day, Sakuraba is dating Koutarou. Yurika was still sad because of Koutarou's lost memories after the fight. At that time, Koutarou, who didn't remember Yurika's background, only said that he knew Yurika was a good person for helping Sakuraba even though he also couldn't remember when and how it happened. Koutarou also gave advice that Yurika should become an ordinary person. Elsewhere shows a group of Power Rangers preparing to fight the enemy. In the next scene, in Koutarou's room, Kiriha gives all her friends a flyer for the drama show from another city. Kiriha received a request to make the drama success. Therefore, she asked her friends for help. At first, Koutarou wasn't interested in helping. However, after discovering that Sakuraba was participating, he agreed to help Kiriha. On the day of the performance, it turned out that all of the audience for the drama were children. In this performance, Koutarou, Thea, and Kiriha act as villains. Koutarou then kidnapped Sakuraba. While the villains were waiting for the superhero to help her, a group of people in Power Ranger outfits arrived. Of course, this irritated Koutarou because he thought confinement wasn't a drama. Finally, the long-awaited superhero appeared on stage. The Power Rangers, who originally wanted to watch the show, suddenly left after seeing the superhero. Furthermore, Kiriha escorted a small child to the city after the performance. Besides delivering the little boy, her goal for the city was also to help the citizens clean up the city together. The scene changed as Koutarou and his friends, as well as the performance committee, evaluated the performance they had put on. However, Kiriha didn't seem to be joining in there. Koutarou, who had just joined, informed that Kiriha had left for the city to help the citizens clean up the city. After Koutarou and his friends reached the city, they saw Kiriha sweeping the streets with the citizen. Sanae, suspicious of her behavior, speculated that she was trying to invade the city. At night, Kiriha talked to her father through a monitor at a dungeon. It turned out that she had two missions she had to do. The first mission was to invade the city, and the second was to get Koutarou's room. Kiriha explained that the second mission took quite a while because she had to compete with several people. Her father, Theiamillis, told her he would take it by force. He also asked his daughter to come home and get married. However, she refused the request. The next day, Sakuraba told Koutarou she was happy with the previous performance because of their small audience. Suddenly, he remembered Kiriha helping the townspeople clean the streets. When they came home from school, Yurika and Sanae were seen going to watch while Koutarou met Kiriha, who was shopping and offered to help her. Unexpectedly, Kiriha was close to all the citizens in every shop she visited. Even many of the vendors gave gifts to her because she had helped the townspeople a lot. After finishing shopping, Koutarou and Kiriha rested by the river. He asked if Kiriha was secretly invading the city. Hearing that, she couldn't dodge. He said that her actions couldn't be justified. On the next day, Koutarou and Kiriha were left alone, making the other girls envious. The girls also planned to follow them both. The members were surprised at the Power Ranger group's headquarters because the alarm signaling the enemy was coming rang. However, after checking, no enemies or criminals came. Not long after, Dr. Roppongi informs there will be an attack from the underground group. In another scene, Kiriha takes Koutarou to the amusement park because she visited him 10 years ago. They both ride various rides there and decide to watch the Kamen Rider movie. The girls who didn't know what movie Koutarou and Kiriha would watch came inside. After Kamen Rider appeared, Ruth messed up the film that was being shown. As soon as they finished watching the movie, Kiriha and Koutarou boarded the Ferris wheel. Inside the ride, Kiriha told him she had been to the amusement park with someone. She said her goal of invading the city was to find the person she liked who was lost when she was still living underground. Regarding Koutarou's place, Kiriha honestly didn't want it, but she did so that the underground kingdom would not invade Koutarou by force. Elsewhere, the girls wait for Ruth to come to her senses after she attacks and ruins the film. When Koutarou and Kiriha descended and planned to take the next ride, suddenly, there was something that felt like an earthquake. It turned out that an underground king named Theiamillis appeared who intended to invade the city. Knowing this, the girls teamed up with Kiriha and Koutarou to take on Theiamillis. Several times Theiamillis made attacks which Kiriha kept thwarting. Then, just as he was about to destroy the playground, Koutarou immediately hit him. Unfortunately, Koutarou's actions caused him to be hit and fall. Soon afterward, Thea and the others also came to Koutarou's aid. As Theiamillis became increasingly annoyed, he took out dozens of small robots to attack Koutarou and his friends. After all, the robots lost Theiamillis, who was cornered and tried to end his life by blowing himself up. Yurika, with her magic, managed to protect her friends in the area. Finally, Theiamillis was killed by Kiriha. With the playground in quite a chaotic state, Koutarou was worried about the news regarding the events of that day. But Kiriha was sure that the city government would change the reason for the destruction of the playground. After that, Kiriha wanted to invite Koutarou to visit the playground again, but he refused her invitation. Instead, he told Kiriha to come with the man she loved. Koutarou said he was willing to help her to find the man. In the morning, Thea was busy waking everyone who was still asleep to go to school. At school, the girls discuss Christmas celebrations. However, no one understands in detail about the celebration. Yurika only knew that Christmas was about eating together. Meanwhile, Sanae only knew that Christmas was about gifts. While Kasagi has his version of Christmas, people will spend Christmas making out with their girlfriends. However, Thea would spend Christmas time practicing. On the other hand, Koutarou was also confused about what he would do when the Christmas break came, but he wanted to throw a Christmas party. In the evening, while Sakuraba is going for a walk, she meets Koutarou, working part-time. He explained that this job was only for 3 days. He then invited Sakuraba to meet him the next day. Meanwhile, in Koutarou's room, the girls discover he works part-time. However, they all didn't know why he did that. They also didn't accept that Koutarou worked. The next day, when Koutarou came home from work, Ruth immediately asked for an explanation. He explained that he would only work part-time for 3 days because he needed money, but they didn't believe him. After that, they all ate dinner together. The next morning, Koutarou was busy decorating the Christmas tree and the knitting club room with Sakuraba. It turned out he was working part-time to earn money to buy a Christmas tree. He wants to throw a Christmas party for his friends. After that, Koutarou asked Kenji if he had invited the girls to come to the party because he was going shopping. Unexpectedly, after he returned to school, he saw that the knitting club's room had been used by another club for parties. Then, Sakuraba suggested that the party should be held at Koutarou's place. After that, Koutarou went back to his house. As it turned out, this was Sakuraba, Kenji, and Kasaga's plan. On the way home, Koutarou realized that his house was where he met his friends. After arriving at his room, he got a surprise party. After that, they enjoyed the party. After the party was over, Koutarou accompanied Sakuraba to go home. On the way, he gave her a knitted scarf as a Christmas present. She also gave a gift to Koutarou, like the Silver Princess, who gave a sword to the Blue Knight. The anime ends with a scene where Koutarou and his friends perform their year-end prayers at a temple. After that, it looks like they are preparing for the next Silver Princess and Blue Knight show. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that friendship is about taking care of each other, helping when they are in trouble, and giving advice if a friend makes a mistake.